what it takes to be successful in the real estate industry, and I might add in 2020. The Closers Platform, a show for closers, about closers, with Rick Bosley today. And Rick, do you know what it takes to be successful in the real estate industry?
I believe I do. So far, so great, Susan. Thanks for having me.
So far, so great. Good, good. It's not even so far, so good. It's so far, so great.
So far, so great. Right.
Good.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. And I look back at your past, the little bit that I know about it, but I feel like I know a lot already.
Sure.
And I think you're a poster person, not child, a poster person for what it takes to be successful in real estate. So if you would indulge me, I'm going to start back. You were born
1982. It was a cold day, and no, it was West Palm Beach, Florida.
Was it in 1982?
1982.
I really have to say, if I had known that coming into the show, I probably wouldn't have you as a guest because I graduated from high school in 1982.
Well, then you can say what the person said of the child then again. So I still have the baby face, yeah.
Yes. So 1982, you were born?
Born and raised Floridian down in West Palm Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Spent most of my life down there. Took a little hiatus in Chicago as a young kid.
Right.
So I do have some fanhood for the Bears and the Cubs.
Okay, all right.
So
I won't hold that against you at all.
Please don't.
I've got some friends in Chicago, so I'm good. I'm good.
Ultimately came back when I was about 10 years old. Spent the rest of my time in West Palm. Came to college at UCF.
Right.
Graduated there in 2005.
And your degree was in?
Health Service Administration.
Okay.
Not at all real estate.
Right, because your passion at that point in your life was what?
You know, it's interesting. My mother's a nurse. She still is a nurse. She's retiring this year, so about 40 years nursing. And the medical field is where my parents were coaching me to go in medical field.
Right.
And my intention initially was to be a chiropractor, actually.
Okay.
And
okay.
So,
wow, so you really didn't do anything that you planned at that age,
Not
right?
at all. So going through school as in health administration, I learned to run a medical practice, and then I'll go to chiropractic school afterward. Fast forward, I did get my health administration degree. I interned a couple of years at a nursing home.
Right.
So I thought, okay, maybe
that takes passion and patience.
It was an incredible experience there. I was in the health facility where most of the patients were Alzheimer's, and a lot of time was spending your day with them to make them have the best day ever, because tomorrow it's a new day for them.
Exactly.
So that was a great experience. I got a job right out of college. That was in 2005, and so I got a little bit of maybe the itch to go start life with a degree instead of going back to school somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah, so that was 2005.
And you started where? In your first?
Maxim Healthcare, which is a recruitment firm for the medical profession, nurses and CNAs over in Spring Hill, Florida.
Okay, I know where that is. Yes, we had a Chelsea Title in Spring Hill, Florida, which was my first job in title insurance. Yes, so I do know.
Yeah. So I did that right out of college and did Maxim for about 6.5 months.
Okay.
Mutually agreed that it was not a good fit. He asked me to leave, and I handed him my resignation letter the same day.
Wow, okay, good. That's just easy.
Not a good fit.
Right.
At that point, I had a decision to make because I bought a house, because that's what you do when you barely are out of college in 2005. You go out and buy houses.
Buy a house.
Yeah. I put the house up for sale. I moved back to West Palm Beach. And I said, I don't love Spring Hill, so I don't want to start over a career here.
Well, there's a big difference, let's be fair, between Spring Hill and West Palm Beach.
There's a big difference, and I actually, I go to Spring Hill often. I'm an investor in one of the market centers over there. I was just there last week, actually.
And that's a Keller Williams Market Center?
That's a Keller Williams Market Center, yeah. And it's just a different area. So me being 22, trying to figure out life, that probably wasn't the best spot for me. Now I'd love it. It's right next to the beach and very affordable and great spots.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, good. So then from there, you stayed in the healthcare field. Yes, no?
Yeah, so I said, let's go back to the realm of running the nursing home or the hospital again. So I actually, like most unemployed 23-year-olds do, I search Career Builder every day and Indeed, and if it matched the profile, I would just send resumes and you just go. And I remember I was golfing, actually, because I was also unemployed, so you golf. Got a call for an interview. I said yes. I took the interview. It was questions such as, how would you handle this conflict? Tell me a time when. Very just character building interviews. They hired me the next day. They said, can you start? I said, absolutely. And I started training, and I didn't know exactly what the job was. And so I was in the training. I'm looking left and right, and I learned that I was a social worker for the Department of Children and Families.
Okay.
So never in my desire did I have a desire to be a social worker.
Right.
I was always more of the business acclimate and not the
So tell me what you gained from that experience, even though it wasn't your intention.
Yeah, it was amazing. I did it for about 5 years.
Okay. 5-year intentional, 5-year increments. Take that down, viewers, because that's been part of Rick's story, and that will unfold as we continue to talk today.
Yeah, a little bit about the 5-year plan. Not knowing what I didn't know, grateful for a job and the opportunity. I remember my first day out of training, they gave me a caseload. I used to tell people as a funny line of I was the legal guardian of 42 children at the age of 24.
Right, wow.
What I learned was real life.
Tough stuff.
Tough stuff. Oftentimes, people would say, I can't believe you saw the heartache, and I saw some pretty horrific stuff, and then you saw some most amazing things.
Right.
I still keep in touch with my very first case that the family was adopted, and now the young girls graduated high school.
Wow.
And I'm able to follow them, stay in touch with those adopted
That gives
parents.
me chills.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I learned about real life, about compassion. I learned about lines and kind of not having to, this is the standard and you do or you don't things.
Right.
And
so you took your education, your business acclimate, and then you took passion and compassion and added that to it.
Yeah, I would say. And that was a rare combination for the industry at the time because very much would be, and I don't want to say the bleeding heart like it's a bad thing, yet I had the compassion, also I had a deadline.
Right.
And so our goal was 9 months to permanency. Get the kid in a permanent home in 9 months.
You and I talked about this, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
So you were passionate, but you were practical, and you also had a business sense of what job had to be done.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, we get there with a family, and we're either going to return them home in 9 months or go terminate their parental rights in court and get them adopted in 9 months. Either way, the kid deserves a permanent home.
Right, gotcha.
So
how, from there to real
from there
estate?
to here. Loved what I was doing. I had a good friend of mine, Tony Galarza, is still in the business. We stood in each other's weddings, so we've been friends. He's also from West Palm. He got in real estate in 2008, and for those 2 years when I was figuring out all of that, he kept going, Rick, this is you. This is your industry. You would crush this. You would kill this. And I was very happy, and I was getting a promotion. I was getting a raise in different aspects. And finally, when I was the supervisor of the units, I looked at my next possible opportunity. And it required a master's degree and 5 years in the role. And so I went back to UCF, a couple semesters of public administration. And at the end of the day, I did the math. I'm going, it doesn't add up for the opportunity that may or may not be available, the cost and the time. I was 28, I was single, and my goal was to be able to provide for my family one day, whoever they were.
You didn't have the family yet, but you knew.
I knew that I wanted to be a family man. I knew that if my wife wanted to work, she could work, and if we chose that it was better for her not to, that we wouldn't be financially strapped that she had to.
And fast forward, you have a wife now.
I have a wife, and I have 3 boys.
3 boys, 4, 3, and 1.
4, 3, and 1.
Craziness.
Yeah, so my wife and I were both kind of, I guess, on the when you know, you know. So we met in 11, started dating in 12, engaged in 13, married in 14, kid in 15, kid in 16, kid in 18.
Wow. And because we want to keep the momentum moving with the show, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about how you had to chase her.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yes.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we'll be good.
I always like to support the wives.
Yeah, she said no for a while.
She said no for a while.
Yeah, follow-up is key. You got to keep going follow-up because that's the conversion.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you converted her, and then you've had 3 amazing boys.
They're awesome.
And your career in real estate started where and doing what exactly?
So I joined Waterford Lakes Keller Williams because my buddy Tony told me to.
Absolutely.
And I showed up one day and I said, I'm licensed, I'm ready to join. And Beth Woodhull out of the Dr. Phillips office.
Sorry, before that, and Beth Woodhull, great show. If you haven't seen it that I did with her, you've got to look back at that show.
I will.
Yeah, a great show. But let's back up a minute. You were at your job. We have to tell this part of the story.
Okay.
And you decided, again, this won't take me where I want to be in 5 years. It was a math equation.
Yep.
You decided real estate. You quit your job. Talk about that. That's really important.
I called up Tony. I remember it was a Monday. A Monday. I don't know if it was Monday. It was May.
Right.
May 2010. We went to lunch. I said, all right, tell me the real deal. What is this? What's the opportunity? And at that point, I decided this is a good shift and change. Now, it took me a while to get from that decision to from licensing. I did online school.
Right.
And that
while working.
While working in some pretty crazy hours with the industry. I actually did a lot of the training before I ever got licensed. So
Right.
I would go when I could, leave work early, take PTO days, go to classes. So the goal was that when I start real estate, I had competency to go out
You
and
were
do
very
real estate.
intentional.
Very intentional with it. Because, and I don't know where I heard it or if he told me or Beth, essentially as a realtor and really any business owner, you're
Right.
unemployed every day. And if you can wake up unemployed every day, when I was unemployed, it was wake up and go hunt for jobs and go
Right.
on interviews. It's the same thing we do every day now.
Right, right.
So I remember my last day at the Children's Home Society was a Thursday, December 2nd, and most people, I think, in my experience, would have taken the weekend and started fresh on a Monday.
Right.
At Friday morning at 8 a.m., I was shirt and tie in the office going, I've got to go find someone to hire me.
Right.
And it was time to go to work. That was December. I had about 7 weeks to pay the bills,
Right.
which was probably dumb, hindsight.
No. I've heard very, very intelligent people say you should not have a plan B, and you clearly did not have a plan B. You went to succeed.
Yes. If we talk about plan B, it's interesting because my parents were not thrilled with the idea of me
Right.
leaving my stable job that I'd been in to go be a realtor.
And you owned a home at this time?
I
Yes,
owned
no.
a home. It's my second home I owned.
Right.
Spring
I was
Hill
gonna say,
sold.
Spring Hill. So you're
Ironically,
also,
I listed it, it expired, and I FISBO'd it. So
Wow.
that's why my first sale was my own, I guess.
wow.
Yeah, so they weren't thrilled with it, and I told them my plan B is I know how to bartend,
Right.
and I did not burn a bridge. We're at my position, so if I need to go back, I can go back. I knew that I had about 7 weeks. I cashed in, well, the paycheck was 2 weeks late. I had some PTO I cashed in, and I had about 3 weeks worth of savings, which is not a whole lot.
Right.
And that also meant go time. And I remember my first contract was a cash deal for $43,000. The average price point was $97,000.
Wow.
So we closed in 2 weeks, and as we closed, I was starting to look for bartending jobs.
Right.
Bartending specifically because I could do that from 9 a.m. to 3 a.m., 9 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Right.
And still be a realtor during the day.
Right.
So kind of the Batman or whatever you're going to do day and
So I
night.
think it's really important for our
Moonlighting, yeah.
viewers to hear, whether you're a realtor or not a realtor, that there can be success even when there's obstacles, such as not much money in the bank, such as needing to work from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. You can still get up. But it was the discipline. I hear the intention and the discipline that really made a difference for you.
Yeah, intentional, and I didn't treat it ever as a hobby.
Right.
Or something that I could take for granted. I'll get to it, but hiring as many, I hired about 700 or 800 agents in my time. And the common question is part-time or full-time. And part-time can work if you're intentional with those part-time hours.
Right.
What doesn't work is sometime.
Right.
No one ever has a sometime job at Publix.
I love that. So part-time or full-time works, but sometimes does not work. I like that.
And I've seen so many agents who have other obligations, whether it's jobs or family, and so they squeeze in real estate when they can, and it's
Right.
sometime, and that
love that.
rarely works.
Okay.
Part-time, you could still work 9 to 3, 5 days a week,
Right.
and be successful within those
It sounds
6
like you were
hours.
punching a clock, even though you weren't punching a clock every day, right?
Absolutely.
You were working during that time. You just
I worked more hours, harder and longer there than ever in my career, and it was so thriving because I knew it was for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you started at Waterford KW, and you said Beth Woodhall was part.
She was the team leader. As I got hired, she was transitioning out.
Okay.
So I remember, you know Twan Trin.
Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
I do. Absolutely,
So Twan
I do.
was my neighbor at the time, and we were office mates, and he left, and some agents left, and I was about 4 months into business. I'm going, is there something I should know
Yeah,
about? here?"
exactly.
And they approached me and said, you'd be a great team leader candidate.
4 months in.
This was May, so yeah, 5 or 6 months in.
Right,
She
okay.
left in April, and then about May I was starting to get approached, yeah.
And do you think it was your discipline and your intention and your business knowledge?
It's how I was showing up.
Okay, how you were showing up.
It was how I was showing up. There's a course called Bold.
Right, absolutely.
I took Bold and I prescribed to it. And I give Bold credit to getting in their spotlight
Right.
because of the habits I adopted, such as the 9 to 11, discipline calls, standing, lead gen. Wow. So in those first 7 months, I had 11 transactions as a 28-year-old with kind of figuring it out.
Right.
So that was always my fun fame to claim of going, hey, I've got 11 transactions, let me coach you
Right.
to build your massive business.
Exactly.
Yet it worked out because I was in the first 7 months. So in July 2011, I was the team leader for Waterford Lakes. We had 76 agents when we started. And in fall of 2016, so about 5 years later,
Right.
I left. We had what's the six quotient? Quintuple?
Yeah, there you go.
Sextuple the profit.
Yes.
We had 265 agents.
Wow.
And grew to be the #1 brokerage in all of Aura.
And you left that?
The whole board. I did, because I never scratched the itch of an agent.
Right.
I only did it for 7 months. I was on my way to hiring an assistant, and then it stopped. And the reason I did it, initially the opportunity, I said it's going to be the greatest opportunity that'll open up amazing doors, or I'll do it for a year, learn a whole lot, and go back and be bigger, faster, stronger.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
So I didn't see a harm to it because I wasn't walking away from a whole lot. So I resigned from team leader to go back in sales, and that was fall 2016. And the opportunity came up from Lori Terrell, my broker,
Right.
And owner of kind of relaunching the Oviedo Market Center. So with that came some investment opportunities. So now I'm an investor in Waterford, Oviedo, Gainesville, Spring Hill offices.
Right.
Did that for 2 years, and that scratch was just still right here.
You're right.
Still itching.
Wanted to be an agent.
Wanted to be an agent.
Tony was right all along.
He knew it. He's a good guy. So I just finished my first full year as an agent.
You did? Okay.
So 2019 was all in. Started off in a partnership. We ended up about 5 months in realizing partnerships are tough.
Right.
So I kind of started twice. January I started, and then as solo agent I started again in June.
Right.
Ended up being a great year. Closed $5 million in volume the first year. Hired my assistant a couple months back, and our goal and intention is to close and help 60 families move this year.
Wow. Which you will.
Which would be year 2. That's the plan.
So let's talk about today, 2020.
Sure.
So you can see your success. And again, I'm really excited, partly when you were speaking, because I thought there's going to be so many nuggets, so many moments that we've already spoken here today where you talked about intention and discipline and boundaries and passion. And those aren't just buzzwords. Those things are things that you've actually lived and put into your life. So now we are here at 2020. The market I'm asking you, is or has shifted, and what does that mean to people watching that don't know?
Yeah, so that shift word has been coming for the last 2 or 3 years because we've been due, right? Especially if you're in the industry, then the shift is coming. Essentially what the shift means is we're moving from a seller's market to a buyer's market.
Right.
Historically, this is the longest seller's market the real estate industry's ever seen.
So seller's markets for our viewer means there's low inventory, not a lot of homes on the market.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially they've got the leverage.
Okay.
Multiple offers come in, multiple offer drives the prices up.
Right.
And the seller's market essentially is anything from 0 to 5 months of inventory.
Right. Okay.
Balanced is 5 to 7 months. Anything above 7 months is the buyer's market.
Gotcha.
And in 2008 and 9, buyers, there's as much as 20 months inventory, which is why we saw that
Absolutely.
happen. Yeah. So the shift is looming. It's not here. And I think there's a couple reasons.
Looming sounds like such a scary word. Should I be frightened?
You should be aware.
Aware. Okay.
You should be aware. If you're not prepared, you should be frightened.
There you go. That's good.
The last shift.
Another nugget, viewers. If you're not prepared, you should be frightened.
Yeah, the last shift from 7 to 10, 1/3 of National Association of Realtors went inactive.
Okay.
So it's also kind of a way of cleaning out some survival of the fittest a little bit. So I welcome a shift. I think it raises the industry. It keeps people from getting out of complacency into intentionality.
Right.
So what we're seeing, and I just did some numbers last time, the most common question we get as a realtor is, how's the market?
Right.
You're entitled. You get that question. How's the market? The response is always, it depends.
Right.
And my favorite analogy is going, how do people feel in a hospital? Well, it depends. They just have a baby and it's amazing? Did they just finish their last treat of chemo and they're amazing? Or they're in the trauma center and something's happened.
Right.
So it depends where you're at in the hospital, how you feel. It depends where you're at in the real estate market of how's the market.
Exactly.
So I was doing some numbers, and certain price points have different buyers. The luxury market, $750,000 and above.
And do you focus on that market? It would be good for our viewers to know.
You know what? I focus on my clients and where they have.
Okay.
I've got 2 under contract right now. One's a 165 manufactured home, and one's a 795 lakefront home.
Okay.
So wherever my clients ask me to serve, if it's within my knowledge and expertise, I'm going to go there.
Okay.
So when you look at that, the market of a luxury house has 8.5 months inventory, which means if no other luxury homes are listed and the buyer keeps buying at the same pace, we're going to have homes for sale for the next 8 months, Versus you look at the 100 to 200,000 range, every 45 days the entire inventory is turning over.
Right. So in a luxury market, it would be fair to say that buyers have choices.
Yes.
Therefore, the shift has already happened, would you say?
It's happened, and you're seeing prices go down.
Okay.
So sales price to list price ratio we're seeing is closer to 95, 96%. Versus in the under 200,000, it's 99%.
Okay.
So you've got to look at when you're listing a house, when you're buying, when you're talking with a buyer or seller, we can't just take the general market.
Right.
We've got to go what location, what zip code, what price point to really get hyper-focused on what's going to be the specific strategy for you. When I say strategy, it's almost who's got the leverage, what are the options, and how can we best market this in front of the competition.
Right.
Yeah.
And you believe that your knowledge, your ability to do this research and share it so eloquently with your clientele sets you above?
I think it's a differentiator.
Okay.
You know, we talked a little bit about the industry and how it's changing. The big companies such as Zillow and Realtors been there, Redfin, Purple Brick, all of the conglomerates that are providing such great tools and resources for the end consumer, they're essentially competing for eyeballs to our database.
Right.
Right? And database has always been our business. For you guys at Fidelity, a lot of your database is realtors. That's your business. And so when I look at my database, it's people who know, like, and trust me.
Right.
Back before the internet existed, if you had a realtor who you knew, liked, and trust, they pretty much got your business. And the value proposition the realtor was number one, they had the key, they had the access, they had the information. Well, as soon as we started syndicating with all these companies, we lost the value proposition of we are the information provider.
Right. We lost some of the value or all of it.
That one value of going, you no longer need to call me to ask or look up about a certain house. I've got some clients, when I make the first contact, they come in, I'm going, good job. You've done everything you need to know. Let's just go do it. The value then, until recently, was, and I need you to open the door for me.
Right.
Well, there's a company called Open Door.
Right.
And their goal is to change the way homes are bought right now. So we're very much at a crossroads with the industry that every individual agent and every individual broker almost needs, I kind of compare it to Game of Thrones, if you're a fan of that.
No, but I've heard enough about it.
So the Game of Thrones are all competing with each other. And at the end, they finally said, let's just join forces to go compete against the, anyways, we'll go in there. And I think this is important, it's not competing. Because for us to say that these companies are not great for the industry, I think is ignorant and selfish.
Right, okay. Love it.
Because, I don't know about you, but I have Hulu, I have Netflix, and I love live streaming.
Right.
I don't miss going to Hollywood Video or Blockbuster. I love being able to just click and finding a Disney Plus. Game changer. My 4 3 and 1 year old.
Love it.
I love it. They have provided more access, quicker access for a very low cost.
And that's what you feel
the goal of these companies are.
Right.
So as a realtor now, I need to learn to coexist.
Okay.
Provide that same access, resources, ability with the hyper-local touch and hyper-local relationship.
Okay. And that's where you're going to continue to stay in the game.
Yeah, my game and my business plan very much is revolved around how can I offer value to my agents, build a relationship, and make sure that they are in the know of everything that's going to affect the value of their house.
And not be intimidated by the fact that there are other resources where they can gather this information independently.
My mother still sends me Zillow links.
I think it's also really important for people to understand that when that buyer or seller comes to you and you better have your homework done.
Right.
It really raises the bar for your preparation. You have to be more prepared to make sure that you are equally as prepared, if not more prepared, than the consumer that's coming to you.
You really can't fake it until you make it anymore. And Mark from Stockworth, who's hosting us here today, he said, is it good for the industry?
Right.
And the answer is yes.
Yes.
Because it's making all of us realtors raise the bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are intentional with a 5-year plan.
Yep.
So it would be remiss of me not to ask you, will you please share with us, Rick, what your current 5-year plan is? And maybe you're 2 years into it, I'm not sure. So what is your current 5-year plan?
So as a team leader for Keller Williams, a lot of where I thrived and helped people have their breakthroughs was team building.
Okay.
Hiring, coaching, and training. I still travel the state at least 2 or 3 times a month, teaching in different market centers and offices. And so very much my goal, I've always said, to leave the Navy to go get my own Navy SEALs. So if I can handpick the people who will be on my team and serve them to really build it by the book. When I say by the book, the really principles I use, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
Right.
Gary Keller wrote it, yet it's an industry standard of
Absolutely.
what to use there. Usually every problem is a missing person. It's a who.
Right.
It's either a who of a mentor and a coach, or a who of a teammate or an employee. And so when you hire your threshold, I saw a lot of people almost hire too quick. And in fact, I was helping a large team before we came here with some business planning, and they asked how I found my assistant, and I said patience.
Right.
And thoroughness. So the 5-year plan is that in 5 years, I'm no longer actively with buyers and sellers. I am leading a team who is actively with buyers and sellers. And the office, the team is creating, it's not quite passive, yet leveraged income.
Right.
That will support our goals, replace the income so my wife can be the stay-at-home mom, and we will focus on the investments and to be able to have, ultimately 250 passive income annually.
Oh, wow, nice.
Just throw that out there.
Good, good.
Yet it is intentional.
Very.
And what's interesting is every time I've hit that next mark, by the time you hit it, you're going, okay, what's next? And I think that's something that's important, is don't get complacent.
Right.
It's known as a financial thermostat, and I'll go back to my first job, social work. You make this much money, and I lived paycheck to paycheck. And then I got a raise, lived paycheck to paycheck. And I got a promotion, lived paycheck to paycheck. And then my really great years, I made this, and I didn't quite live paycheck to paycheck,
Right.
yet as humans, we survive.
Right.
Right? And by the time that, every time you make a certain goal, whether it's weight, income, traveling, that becomes your new minimum standard. Why should we settle for less after that? And so it's always resetting. And so Mark was mentioning before the 5-year plan, and it's very much this year I've got to reset it because I'm 4 years in, I need a next 5 year. What
Exactly.
What does that look like?
Right. So you've got a year to wrap it up and that year to plan on the next 5. So 2 things.
Sure.
I'll tell you, 1, will there be a 4th child is my first question.
Not in the plan.
Not in the plan. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know whether we were trying for a girl.
We say we are all done. No.
And then I wanted to tell you as I close the show what Jen and my 5-year plan is where you're concerned.
Sure.
That we will still be partners.
Yeah.
That we will be helping each other grow business together, learning about the market in the industry and thriving.
Yeah.
So that.
Well, and I'll speak in that because what I love of what you guys do at Fidelity is you have been able to provide a service that I didn't know I wanted or needed.
Right.
Which is pretty neat. There's a lot of realtors out there, and there's a lot of title companies out there. And many of them and us will do the customer expectations. It's how do we exceed those expectations? And every time you exceed it, that becomes the new norm for that customer. So it's constantly reinventing. And I felt that already with you guys. Even having, this is just an amazing opportunity here. I don't know what's going to come of it. It's just neat.
Right.
And it shows your intentionality with it and adding value. So no, I've loved that and appreciated that because you guys have been able to bring great title work, which is what we need to maintain the standard,
Right.
and then exceed it with
It's
how
beyond
can
the
we
standard.
partner and how
Right.
can we grow.
That's
Yeah,
good. That's great.
Yeah.
So actually, we've gone way over the usual amount of time that we're on the show
It's been
together
fun.
because I've been having fun.
Good.
So I'm going to count on that our viewers have had as much fun. And one of the things that's very intentional about our show is over the next several weeks, we'll give nuggets from this show so you can have little clips, little moments to learn more about Rick and what he has to offer the industry. So I'm Susan West with the Closers Platform, and I'll see you again next Thursday, same time, same place. There we go.
Yeah, it was fun. That flew by.
Yes.